I happen to have a 3D printer. We're gonna print a transmission. All right guys, welcome back to the shop. If you've been following along with me this whole time, you know that we've done a lot of work to the Brat. We've kind of been all over the place, but we've got a lot of the big stuff out of the way. We got the rear brake sorted, we got the front brake sorted with the coilovers and the disc brake conversion. We've got the engine at least test fitted into the engine bay and at least secured for now. We've taken the dash out, but I've really been putting something off. I've really been putting off the transmission because the transmission might require some cutting, and I don't want to do that. I think I've said from the beginning, I want to do minimal modifications to the actual body, the actual structure of the Brat. Now the saving grace here is that we have to replace the floorboards in the Brat, so we might have to cut the transmission tunnel anyways. I don't know yet. I don't want to be lifting the transmission in and out all the time just to test fit here and there. And so an idea occurred to me. Why couldn't we somehow make or print a 3D version of the Subaru transmission without having to sit there and lift it in and out and jack the car up and get the transmission jack and all that stuff, where we could actually just lift it in and out with our hands easily. We could mark things, we could draw on it, and we could really see how this transmission is going to fit. So I think we're going to print a transmission, which leads us to the 3D printer. So I was online kind of looking around to see if I could find a Subaru transmission 3D file, you know, maybe a transmission that was similar to the one we had. And I came across a guy in Australia who had actually 3D scanned this exact same transmission and was selling the STL file. And it was like 15 bucks. So I bought it and I threw it into my 3D printer slicer, and I was able to cut it up into pieces that I could use on my printer, and that's what's going on behind me. So this is the Creality CRM4. It's a large format 3D printer. It does something like 450 millimeters this way, 450 millimeters that way. I think it's like 480 or so millimeters high. I've been wanting to get one for a while, but they're not cheap. They're like $800 on Amazon. I think they're still $1,100 or so from Creality, and I just didn't want to spend that kind of money. So I was on eBay a couple weeks ago, and I was looking at the used CRM4s that they had on there, and they were still a little expensive for what I wanted to spend. So I was looking at the used kind of like dent and ding parts of repair listings, and they had one on there and had a couple days left on it, and nobody really bid on it. But I thought, well, I'll give it a shot because it looked like everything was in the picture. It was booted up in the picture. The guy just said he had never tested it. So I just thought, well, maybe it was a return or a refurbished model or something. So I took a gamble, spent 160 bucks, and got the 3D printer. Put it all together. It was missing a couple bolts and stuff, nothing big, but it was missing a small belt and the limit switch on the Y-axis, which was preventing it from honing and doing its auto level and everything. Those two parts were about $18 on Amazon. Got them next day, and as you can tell, it's printing just fine. So the downside to such a large printer and the fact that we're trying to print a transmission is time. This thing has currently been at it for over a week, and it's only printed about 3 inches. Now granted, it's doing a lot of the work right now for the supports and getting that started. So once those are done and it starts to really get to the, if you want to call it the tunnel shape of the transmission, it should go a lot quicker. So I'm gonna run a time lapse on this thing, which I think is gonna come out really cool. So it's gonna take a picture every 5 minutes. And like I said, it's been at this for over a week. It's only recorded 1 minute and 39 seconds. And keep in mind, it's taking a picture every 5 minutes. So it's gonna look pretty cool. I'm gonna check in every couple days, refill the filament when needed, and we're just gonna let it print and see how long it takes. So I'll check back with you guys when it's done. All right guys, so just checking in on the print. It's been about, let's see, 14 days, 11 hours, and 57 minutes. It's got about 8 days, 4 hours, and 7 minutes left on the print. And this is how far it's made it in about 2 weeks. And I just swapped out to this a couple days ago. And so we've gone through 2 rolls already to get to this point. So this is probably not going to get us all the way, so we'll probably have to use one more roll. Let me show you guys how we split this up in the slicer to make it fit on this printer and how we're going to piece it all together. All right, so I just put in the 4th roll of filament here. It's got about 3 days left is what it's projected. It's about 82% of the way done. From this point on, most of it is just the perimeter of this. I hollowed this out for this specific reason, but I wanted this part, which is mainly the bell housing part, to be thick because that's what will actually mount up to the engine. I expect this to probably go a little quicker. It says 3 days. I think it'll probably go a little quicker. The estimation time on this machine, for whatever reason, is not the greatest, probably due to the size of it. But I would expect this to be done here, maybe in a couple days. Check back in when it's done. All right, here it is. Let's see if we can get it off here. There we go. Sweet. That is so cool. And it weighs like nothing. Well, here she is, the exact replica of an EJ Series 5-speed transmission out of a 2004 WRX. And as you can tell, it weighs nothing. It's actually pretty cool. I did have to print it in several pieces. This first half here was all printed in one session. And I think it took like 19.5 days, something crazy like that. And then the rest of the tail shaft I did in pieces on my smaller printer. I could have done them both, I didn't really want to wait over a month to print this thing. But it's pretty cool. And as you've already seen, if you've been following the channel, we've already been able to test fit it in the BRAT. And so it's really nice to be able to lift it up in there and maneuver it and see where you need to mark things and where this is actually going to go. So this is cool. I'm going to keep this in the shop for a long time and probably put it on display somewhere. But I really appreciate you guys watching and following with me on this journey. So we'll catch you next time.